And on a table in the College of Fine Arts, it says, isulong ang demokratikong revolusyon ng bayan. And the second image is actually a painting, and it depicts protesters. And the last image is actually a mural painted to the school itself. And these are all, ayun nga, activist and socially engaged art. And this type of art and messages, you won't really see this in other colleges as much as CFA. Maybe in Palma Hall you'd see this, but ayun nga, in the College of Business Administration, there's less of that. And with this, I wanted to present the main thesis of my paper, which is Honor Excellence in the Service of the Nation. We already know that this is UP's new motto. This is what they aim to import to the students. But interestingly, the students and the faculty themselves in our interlocutions also brought this up as in unprompted talaga when we would talk about them. When we would talk to them about what do you want to teach the students, what have you learned, they quote this, honor and excellence, or even service. Which is weird because, you know, embodying the school motto, I think a lot of students would find that corny. But ayun nga, the students themselves proudly say that this is what they learn. And thus I describe this as an experience near concept because it's from the words of the students themselves. As evidence, a CFA official that I talked to says that she tries to impart the motto of honor and excellence, aiming for the students as artists and cultural workers to embody such values. And she asks the question to her students, why does art matter? Because she said there is honor in this by engaging with the social realities, not just making art for art's sake or for decoration, but ayun nga, speaking on the social realities and making art about it, making art matter to people. Another student has told me that, I'll just read quotes from my phone because this is very important. Ayun nga, ina-emphasize sa amin in UP is honor, excellence, and service. Noon kasi hindi ako masyadong ma-service. Iniisip ko lang na resign na ako to be a corpo slave or nasa ad agency. But through my studies in CFA, I saw how art can influence the social good. And there's another student who also said there was always a value of service in the classes that they've been to, and mentions that they've been doing this type of art, this type of socially engaged activist art even before. Next slide, please. So there were some key themes that, interestingly, when we talk to our interlocutors from different disciplines in art, there were some similarities, and one of this is activism and social awareness. I think to start off with this, I would like to quote a CFA professor who says that the student experience in the college is activism and service is a part of the culture. To quote, well, being in CFA alone, the community itself is very active pagdating sa mga service and activism movements. Being in UP alone, there's a sense of community talaga. The students themselves mobilize. They're proactive. Pagdating sa ganitong mga bagay, which is a very good thing, some of them are even more knowledgeable than us. So with this, you can see that activism is a cultural norm in the college at this point. And there's a very large population of activists in the faculty and the students. Professors and administration in the College of Fine Arts are actually engaged in activist and socially engaged organizations which influence their practices with the college. For example, a CFA student shared with me that, to quote, sobrang activist ng mga profs dito. They even said that some students are allowed to skip classes or they're even incentivized to skip classes for them to attend rallies because the professors themselves are attending the rallies as well. A lot of the professors are also part of the Concerned Artists of the Philippines. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's called CAP. And this is a, ayun nga, activist art group that, ayun nga, it's very prevalent in CFA. And another CFA student informed me that, ayun nga, a lot of student activists actually take up leadership roles in organizations. So they're not only part, but they're also the leaders of these. And with that, CFA students share social awareness that influences the social and political knowledge of their peers. There was this one student I talked to, sabi niya, Marcos apologist daw siya, Duterte supporter siya, before going to UP. But then when he went to UP, other students sharing their sentiments, sharing their political views, and overall inviting him to activist events has changed his worldview. And now he no longer supports Duterte or he's no longer a Marcos apologist because CFA has opened his eyes to realities because of the discourse coming from the students. Next slide, please. So another big factor is how CFA has become a safe place for academic freedom and freedom of expression. A CFA official that I talked to said that their mission for the college is to promote radical self-expression and make the college a sanctuary for freedom of expression and compassionate spaces. And he also mentioned that when the press is pinned down by the state, art should be able to fill in the role of delivering the truth. And being truly creative is made without the fear of being possibly red tagged, censored, or misunderstood. If an artist has a point to make in which they believe in or where they want to make a statement, they should be given the freedom to explore that. This includes standing up and speaking up whenever a right is threatened. So the image that I included here actually graffiti rin to on the very walls of CFA. And in other places in campus, they try to erase markings made by students or paint over them. But in CFA, no, with statements like these, very critical of the government. It says, impeach Sara. Sahod itaas, presyo ibaba. And ay panagutin si Duterte. These are very critical of the government, anti-government sentiments. And yet they are proudly kept in the walls of the college. And I would say even encouraged in line with freedom of expression. Another CFA official told me that the role of parola, okay, so CFA has a gallery kasi. So aside from it being a college, they're also their own separate gallery where they feature artworks. They said that the role of this gallery is to give space for activist exhibitions. If you're familiar with Suryanyang Sining, this is a collective of activist artists which showcase their work. I've been to the event in CFA, and this is a Lumad effigy head because they were fighting for indigenous people rights. And it was proudly displayed in the Fine Arts Gallery of UP. Sorry. Ayun nga, this official said that if it weren't for CFA, this type of art wouldn't even be displayed in a gallery in the first place because it's considered too radical. But then they intentionally give space for it to be displayed. Next slide, please. Another key theme is conceptualization and technique. So in CFA, they're taught in the curriculum that conceptualization and techniques in the art-making process go hand in hand. Like, conceptualization, as we know, is forming ideas, making the meanings of your artwork, but it's only half of the process. The other half is focused on how it's executed artistically. In their view, there must be a unity of form and content. And, form and content is a dialectical relationship. Another professor told me that students follow the philosophy that they should learn practical skills first. But practical skills in art is not enough because in UP, in the latter half of the UP curriculum, students transition towards critical thinking, problem solving, and conceptual development in their art. Conceptualization and ideation are focal, but lessons are not too technical according to the students. Aside from what they're being taught and how to draw or how to paint, a lot of focus is on the idea behind the artwork. Another student added that the focus for them as artists is more of meaning making. He recounted that instead of Photoshop being taught in classes, there are debates in class and frequent recitations that help them learn about social issues and talk about social issues from their peers. Next slide, please. And another theme is that they are deliberately taught in CFA to relate art to social realities. This is an artwork from a student called Direction ng Kamay. It seeks to represent the hands of maninindas, vendors, etc., the common folk, and how they all work together to uphold society. So the College of Fine Arts relates artistic practices to cultural practices. And they are deliberately taught to go to the community, kind of like ethnography. They go onto the field, they engage with communities, and they learn about them to showcase them in their art. So the college has a community-centeredness that teaches relevant issues in the nation. And this is part of the UP curriculum as well. One student told me that their PI 100, which is a Jose Rizal class that's required for students to take, recommended a book on social issues and societal conditions that they recognize in the climate, and they enhanced his societal knowledge. CFA students are also required to take a subject called Colonial Art History, which teaches them about colonialism and how fascism has changed the art of the Philippine community. So yes, when people go to fine arts, they are already bombarded with a pangmasa advocacy. They cannot separate communities, social realities from their art. Aside from learning about art, they also learn about the realities of the nation. Okay, next slide please. Another and the last important key theme is human-centered design for problem solving. So this is very interesting because when I went to the visual communication students exhibits, all of their exhibits had a problem that they recognize in Philippine society, and their art is meant to create a solution. So an example of this is Abot Dagat, which is a website that a student designed that gives donations to fisherfolk. But before she did this, she actually visited the fisherfolk community themselves. She studied the issues in the community, and based on her research, which is like a mini ethnography, that's when she was able to create a solution. And if CFA, they are really taught to seek issues like this. They are taught that art is not enough, and if they really want their art to have a meaning, they must learn the issues of communities and use their knowledge in order to make solutions. So this type of curriculum teaches human-centered design for problem solving. They see art not just as a mode of expression, but also a tool for problem solving and helping the community. Next slide, please. So I would like to finish with this quote. The value of honor is embodied through the students' and faculty's political engagement, while excellence is manifested through their balance of conceptualization and technical skill, and service is incorporated through their community-engaged artistic practices. As we've observed from the key themes, CFA is literally, it has an environment, community, and curriculum that literally fosters the type of socially engaged art making that we see in the college. It's not something random. All these elements come together to encourage the students to help the community, help people find solutions, and use art more than just expression, but also as a tool for help and change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ponsalan, for that very enlightening presentation on the activist pedagogy of our UP Diliman College of Fine Arts. Now we have Now our second presenter is going to be presented through video.
Sa ating lahat. Una po sa lahat ay